Hello and welcome back to J.P.s World of Wrestling. I'm your man J.P. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Since I'm not really able to use one of the videos that I recorded, I'm just going to completely abandon those two videos altogether, and I'm just going to re-record them both. Just because that's just what I feel like doing. And it's my channel, so I can do what I want. I can do what I want. Anyway. So today, we're talking about terrible wrestling figures. That's right. There's quite a few of them. And I'm going to show you the few that I do have. And the ones that I don't have, I'm going to probably do part 2 when I'm out at Legends Arcade, when I can actually show you some like really awful figures that are worth talking about. But I'm just going to show you a few of the ones that I have. And I'll tell you why I think they're awful. Some of them are just completely obvious why they're awful. So, alright, I'm going to start with this guy right here. This is Superfly Jimmy Snuka figure from Hasbro. Now, this is not the worst figure ever, but it's also by far not the best. First of all, this hand is open, which is fine because he did a lot of chops, but this hand he's doing like the I love you thing, and plus it's a jumper. I guess that's what they call them, the jumpers. There's this thing on the back, you're supposed to push it down, release it, you're supposed to jump forward, but like I said before, I always just like to use my hand. And in my opinion, the Jimmy Snuka LJN figure, way better than this one. I mean, this one, I probably would have still used it, but probably not going to get a ton of play, just because the pose is poor at best, and it's just not very good. So, that's the Jimmy Snuka figure. So the next one I'm going to talk about is actually a WCW Galoob figure, and it's probably one of the only ones that they did here in the U.S. that was just awful. And that's, of course, this one. Ron Simmons. Not a very good figure, not a solid wrestling figure at all. The pose is just awful. It's just terrible. I hate when wrestling figures have this one arm. It's like fused to his body. There's nothing you can do with this. I've tried using this figure. There's nothing you can do with this. This is basically a Ron Simmons statue that you can put up on a shelf. But yeah, not very good at all. So now, this next one, I'm going to lump it in 3 because I have 3 of them. And again, I don't know why I spent money on these. I really don't. I really couldn't tell you. But it's these 3. You got Goldberg, Seth Rollins here, and Syxx. Now, a lot of you are old school wrestling fans, so you don't know Seth Rollins. He's a modern era guy. For most part, he's pretty good in the ring, but they've never really done anything with his character that's really worth mentioning at all. But yeah, these figures are not very good. First of all, they're jumpers, and their arms are really stubby. There's not really much you can do with these. It's just not very good. And with Goldberg, I'm really sad that this is the figure they came out with for Goldberg. Because I met Goldberg. He's a really nice guy in person, and he deserves a lot better than this. I mean, he's got the thing on the back there, but he's got this stupid thing on his back. Again, you push it down. He's supposed to jump forward. It's just stupid. I don't understand these figures. I don't understand why they designed these figures in this way. It's for Mattel Retro just because they're trying to come up with a line that's very reminiscent of the original Hasbro figures. So therefore they come out with these. Probably designed by the few people that actually liked playing with these. But now this one, the only reason why I have this one is because it came in a set of 4 guys. Now, This one is also another one that's not very good. This Scott Hall figure in 6. These two, if they would have sold these two in a pack together and they would have sold the other pack separately, I would have probably just bought the other pack because these figures are just not very good. You know, this one's he's got it says Outsiders on the outside of his trunks. He's got, of course, the NWO shirt, and it's got. I mean, the paint's not bad, but these figures are in terrible, terrible poses. If if I weren't just simply collecting these, I never would have spent money. Well, I shouldn't say never, but because I spent money on those other ones, but I probably wouldn't spend money on these. These are both terrible. Which brings me to probably the worst Hasbro figure ever created. And of course, it's this one. Ric Flair. I don't even consider this a Ric Flair figure. But they also did this style of figure with Ravishing Rick Rude and the 1-2-3 Kid. I feel sorry for Ravishing Rick because they never really gave him a real figure. Like, he never had a good action figure. His LJN figure was awful. Ravishing Rick's LJN figure was just always just terrible. And every time I see them, they're always in very brand new, pristine condition because that figure is absolutely unusable. There's nothing redeemable about it. And I really would like to meet the person that designed that figure or the group of people that designed that figure and just question them. Just ask them why. Why did you come up with such a useless figure? The same with the ones who created this figure. I'm like, why would you design something so stupid? Like the idea again is to put the guy's head right there and you do this. I mean, I've seen Ric Flair do that occasionally, but I never saw Rick Rude do that move, and I never saw the 1-2-3 Kid do that move. Now, if you've got the 1-2-3 Kid that's done in this style, you're probably pretty fortunate because those figures alone are worth like a lot of money, especially if you've got it on card. Wow, I'll never have it because it's just way too much. But no, this is an awful, terrible, terrible figure design, and I would love to know what they were thinking when they designed this. I understand that with the Hasbro figures, all of them had to have this power action move of some sort. But this is just awful. At least designed it to where you could use it for something. I have tried having matches with this figure. I can't do it. This gets in the way, and it's just unusable. I mean, to me, this doesn't even really look good on a shelf. But I don't know. I'm still glad that I have this for collector's sake, but Ric Flair, 16-time world champion Ric Flair deserves better than this. Awful. Just awful. Well, those are just a few terrible action figures. There's a lot more out there that hopefully eventually I'm going to be able to show you, especially some UK exclusive Galoobs that they came out with for WCW. Some of those, especially the Giant or El Gigante figure, awful. And then there's a Diamond Dallas Page Toy Biz figure that I used to have where it was like this. Its pose was like this. And you could get the arms to come down like this, but you had to squeeze the legs together. But then as soon as you release it, his arms would immediately go back like this. And you could bend the arms this way and then have it, but then it's just like this. You can't do anything like this either. Toy Biz is another one of those companies that did a terrible job with wrestling figures. All of them are overly articulate and are, fully posed. That's the thing with modern figures. They're all fully posable, and I don't really understand the mentality because the people that collect those are people kind of my age, maybe a little bit younger, that had Hasbro figures and LJN figures. Why would you? And those, we were just fine with those. But again, I don't know. And even if I were to go back and collect the modern Mattel figures and the AEW figures, there's just so many of them out now. They're never going to be as collectible as an LJN or Hasbro. They're just not. They're never going to be as collectible. You're never going to, they're never going to be like that because they made so many of them. They, it just, as a collector, the idea is you want to collect the entire set, the entire collection. But when they keep pumping them out, different ones, it makes it very hard. That's where Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles went wrong. Is if they would have kept it like the core collection, collectors would have been ecstatic. But they kept pumping out these weird ones like basketball playing Michelangelo, moon landing Donatello, just pizza delivery driver Leonardo. It's just collect. They came out with all these stupid ones. And WWF in the mid '90s, they would do the same thing with their figures, like the Jakks Pacific figures. Oh, they would have these weird ones, like zombie ones. And Mattel has like zombie ones. Why do you want a zombie wrestler? I don't. And WWF would come out with these ones that were called Maximum Sweat, where proportionately it was like a non-usable figure anyway, but you'd put water in it, and it had these little holes in it with sweat. The late '90s was when the WWF, they would just put out stuff. It was anything, just whatever they could put one of their wrestlers' faces on. Any kind of Stone Cold Steve Austin thing they'd put out. Any kind of The Rock thing they'd put out. Like, oh, it's a Stone Cold Steve Austin Velcro dartboard where instead of darts or little balls, oh, they're little shoes with Austin 316. That's not a real thing. I'm just making that up. But it was stuff like that. It was bunch of random stuff that didn't make any sense. And I never really understood, why would people actually buy this stuff? But anyway, those are just a few terrible wrestling figures. There's a lot more out there that I don't have. And if I ever get them, it will be just simply for collector's sake. Pretty much any of the WWF jumpers are going to be awful, in the awful category. Just because I don't understand the purpose of those. But that's just me. And it's not just me. I've heard other people, a great number of people, complain about those. That like we as fans never like those. But yet Hasbro kept making them. Mattel Retros seems to keep making them. But speaking of Mattel Retros, they've got another wave coming out that's actually already out that I want to get, but I just don't know if I could really justify spending the money right now. But it's got Jerry the King Lawler, The Undertaker, Vader, and Paul Bearer, which it looks like a really cool set, but again, I don't know if I'm going to really spend the money right now. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. So if you're new here, go ahead and like the video. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.